So I was just going to share this today. I had come across a video yesterday or this morning, actually it was this morning, on how it was actually supposed to be just like a funny kind of like a funny context in something that's real, right? For a lot of people. This gentleman was like, he was washing his oranges, right? He was about to like eat his orange, whatever. And then the voice was like, but there's chemicals on these oranges. And so we have to wash these oranges. And as he's washing these oranges from the tap, it's like, do you know how all these chemicals that are in the water, that's not good for you? And then he's like, oh my gosh. So then he goes to dry it with paper towel. And then it's all these thoughts about all these chemicals that are in the paper towel. And before that, he decides he's going to use Brita water, and then the thought was, there's all these chemicals that are in the plastic from the jug that you're putting your water in, and it just kept going and going and going. Like everything he was like doing, it was like there's these chemicals in this, or there's this, or like you go ground outside, but you're putting your hands in the plants. Well, there's all these chemicals that are in the lawn and all this stuff and whatnot. And while I'm not discounting that any of that is true, there for sure are a lot of chemicals in this world and the stuff that we ingest or that we put our hands into. But I will tell you that we don't have to live our lives that we are constantly, yes, we can be concerned about these things. And yes, those things do need to change. But in the act of trying to control our external world around us for all the chemicals that we have, like, yes, we can make our houses chemical friendly with products that we use for cleaning. People who have well water, some people use rainwater for stuff like that. Yes, you absolutely can, whatever makes you feel better. But I will tell you there's another way, because we can't always escape all the chemicals and all the things that might be toxic in our lives. And we can do the best that we can in our daily lives. However, what I have learned is when we can learn to raise our vibration, and we can get to a place where everything that we ingest or that our hands touch upon, our body literally can alchemize all that chemical that's in our body, right? So when we meditate or we follow our highest passion or our excitement during our day, and when our vibration rises and rises and rises, and our vibration is always rising regardless, but we can enhance it, we can accelerate it with doing additional things if we want to. So we can decide to raise our vibrations, and we can then become a vibration where we are no longer a match to those chemicals, to those things in our life, and our body will actually, our energy will actually flush all of that out. It won't stick within the body. I will share something about what I have experienced. I've also noticed when we bless our food, and that's where prayer comes from. But the initial thing of prayer stems from blessing our food, having the intention, because what we think about, we give energy to, right? So if we are thinking that this food is going to be absolutely horrible for us and we're going to get really sick from it, and we have this really ingrained belief and pattern going on that we truly, truly believe it, that's exactly what's going to happen, right? And same with vice versa, right? So if we can believe that our energy, as we raise our vibration, and with that start to believe, and sometimes it is a fake it till you make it sometimes, right? It's just, or it's even having those intentions and setting those intentions and deciding that that's going to work, that alone will start to work, right? And so for some people who don't have the greatest water, or you are drinking water, tap water that has like a lot of chlorine and fluoride and things in there, it's just literally having that glass of water and looking at it, because if you Google, or I'm sure most of you have come across certain people who are intuitives with water, that water holds memory, and water, it has information and it listens. It's a consciousness energy, right? So you can bless your water. You can literally look at the water and have the intention that with your energy, that the water and your intention that the water can become clean and clear for you. You don't have to put it on a window ledge. You don't have to let it sit in the sun. But if that is something that resonates with you, that you feel like you want to do, by all means do it, right? I'm just telling you there's a different way to do this, right? So that's with your food as well, like your meat and all of those things. And yes, some of the animals and stuff like that have been the way that they're treated, and energy holds memory in the meat. But those animals came here for a purpose. Their souls came here for a purpose to I can't even say sacrifice themselves, to give themselves to us for food. That's why they were created, right? And the animals, and the same with humans, as soon as there is something torturous going on that the body knows and that the soul does not want to withstand that pain, the soul leaves the body. The soul leaves the body. So when that happens, and I know some people say, well, there's the after effects of like an animal like shrieking or something. The body has a natural reactive instinctive state. And it's just the body having its natural thing, but it doesn't mean that the soul is experiencing that. And that's when we would feel the pain, right? If our soul is still in our body and we cut ourselves or we scrape ourselves or something happens to us, we feel that pain. But if the soul is no longer in the body, we no longer feel that pain. And I think I could like literally go off onto totally different avenues with this. Maybe I'll do that in another video. But we're going back to the concept of chemicals and stuff that we are having in our natural life, right? So back to the food, we can bless the meat. We can give thanks to the meat. We can give thanks to the animal that gave us this stuff that we can sustain our bodies in life, right? And just that natural act of it and having that gratitude for it, the energy of that will actually neutralize the energy in that meat for us to ingest. And just knowing that when it blesses it coming in. And I will say it like that. I'll say it in this way. Have you ever been in a situation with somebody, or there's been a situation where you're seeing it and it's not so pleasant, or it's something you're walking into and the energy around you is not like, it's not really pretty, right? And you can come into it with some fresh eyes and be like, I hold love energy, I hold love and I hold compassion within myself. And my energy alone can alchemize. It can shift and transform the energy in the room, right? And if you follow that, you'll be guided to know what to say or how to be in that room. And I mean, there's gonna be some people on a different vibe level that are just gonna piece out of that room, right? But the ones that are close enough to you, you can transform that energy of people around you, right? It's not changing the people. It's just coming in with your positive energy, and those who are closest vibrationally to you will gravitate to you. But you can literally come to somebody who might be having a bad day and who might lash out at you, and you could come at them with love and compassion and knowing they're having a bad day and that it doesn't affect you. And you can be really kind to them, and you can really notice that your energy will start to transform theirs, right? It's not always for all people, but you can notice that with certain people, that your energy actually can shift the other person's energy. And just by being kind to them and maybe having some inspiration or something to say to them that might make them feel really good that day. And that's how powerful our energy, the love, the compassion, the higher vibration energies can be to somebody else, right? And so if we can transform that with people, of course we can do that with everything else in our life. With water, we can manipulate the energy for good, right? And manipulate just means to use, right? And we can use that energy for good, right? So next time you're in your house with all of your stuff, yes, be mindful about the chemicals you're using, the products you're using, absolutely. But at the same time, we can't always control the circumstances around us when we are invited to other people's places to eat, even like with the holiday season coming up, right? And it's being mindful of the stuff that you're being presented with, but we always have a choice. We have a choice on what goes into our bodies, or we also have a choice of the intention we set about what goes into our bodies, because we can transform the energy into something positive all the time. And you'll actually start to notice that when you start doing this more, you'll actually just be doing it all like from default, right? So, and I know that there's also the talks of like the 5G towers and all these things and the radiation and stuff like that. when we vibrate at a higher level, we are no longer a match to that. We no longer are affected by it. No longer affected by it, right? One other thing I am going to share, and this could be like a certain, take what resonates, honestly. If you don't agree, that's totally fine too. I am one that never gets flu shot. I've never been a fan of needles. But for holidays and stuff like that, if I was traveling somewhere and it was a requirement to have that before I go, absolutely I would, right? Because there are certain things, even though I have been the type of person that rarely ever gets sick in my life. And it's because I have this dominant belief that I have such a good immune system. And I've always had this since I was young. I always knew I had such a good immune system. And with me also raising my vibration, that just instilled that even more and more and more, right? The dog just wants in. So when COVID came and everyone was getting these vaccinations and a lot of people were doing these out of fear, right? And I had a job where I didn't have to get it done, right? And I wasn't somebody that believed that I needed it, right? Maybe some people do, and each to their own. I never judged anybody else that did, right? I got to a point where my intuition was like telling me that it was okay if I wanted to get it. And I found this really odd. I found it kind of odd. I was just like, well, I never get anything like this. So I chose, one day I woke up and I was actually kind of excited to go get this. And all I heard was, you have the choice when something is put into your body, if it stays in your body. And if it's something, if you believe. And I had been going through a lot of transformations and things in my life where I had actually heard you always have a choice. You always have a choice within your own body. Your cells in your body are always listening to you, right? So I actually went and I went to go get this done. I booked an appointment. I went in to get this shot, and the guy was amazing that gave it to me. And I asked him, I was like, so how long have you been doing this? Because myself, I'm just terrified of needles. Like I don't like anything piercing into my skin. So he's like, I asked how good he was at giving needles, and he's like the kiss of an angel. And the fact that he said that, I was like, okay, nope, this is fine. We're okay. Like it was just more confirmation, and it just made me feel really good, right? And I literally didn't feel anything. So I go home that day, and later that evening, I am sitting on the couch watching TV, and I've had energy surges throughout my body. Most of my time, like that past year and stuff like that, like upgrades and stuff. And I could literally feel the current of electricity come through me, right? So that wasn't something that was like foreign to me. But this was like ice cold in my veins. Electricity or vibration, strong vibration running through my body. So I was actually like really intrigued by this, and I felt like I felt like I was cold, but not like cold that I needed a blanket. It just felt like I had ice running through my veins. It was super interesting. And when I asked myself about this, or asked intuitively about this, I heard, we're flushing it. And of course the mind wants to come in and interject and say, I don't know about this. Like, this might be like a load of crap, all this stuff, right? But I felt something here. I'm like, I've never experienced this before. Like, so I was like, okay. And the fact that was kind of, I had more of a belief, and that was legit happening, and that was the reason for happening, that it kind of canceled out the doubt that I had. So then it came to get the booster shot, right? And I had no intentions on getting that one either. And then I woke up one morning, and I had this excited feeling, and it was like, we're going for the second one. And I'm like, okay. And so I went for the second one, and not even a few hours later, I have that same ice coming through and throughout my body. And it lasted for a couple hours. Like both times it lasted for a couple hours. And I will say the first time, my roommate, who like was very open-minded at the same time too. And I was telling her about the sensations that was going throughout my body. And I was like, feel my hands. Like, do my hands feel cold? And she's like, no, your hands are warm. And I was like, but it feels like ice cold, right? So the second time it happened again, completely flushing up and down my body, like this vibration going throughout my body, and it was ice cold. So, okay. And shortly after that, I think I was kind of going through like one of those upgrades where I was feeling, I was overworking myself and I had burnt myself out, and I was starting to feel a cold coming on, right? Like just like nasal congestion. And when we run ourselves down, usually we're prone to those things, right? So my immune kind of had gone a bit, and I had to work, right? So you're like head fogged and you're not really thinking straight. So I went and I got myself, which I usually never take any sort of medicines or pills or anything, not even for headaches. And I can't remember the last time I even had one of those. I decided to get daytime Benadryl and the liquid stuff, right? And so I was smashing a bunch of that, right? Just to clear myself up. And I felt that stuff, if you take too much, it literally makes you feel like you're like, woo, going on, right? And shortly after I had taken that, I had this like cold sensation, the cold vibrations run through my body again. And at first I was like, what is going on like this time? Like, what did I do? Like what? And I was like, oh, the cough medicine, because I'd gone so long without putting anything in my body. And so I literally had that intention that anything that wasn't meant to be in my body, that my body would flush out, right? And I haven't had anything like that since, any other needles or anything like that. And I know for a fact, even where I'm at now, vibrationally, I know 110%, and I feel it with every fiber of my being, that it was flushing it out of my system. And it was doing it in a way that it was showing me that this is what we're doing. You set the intention for this, and we're listening, and this no longer resonates within your body. So we are flushing it out, right? And the higher our vibrations come, the more that our body literally expels anything in us. And it already does. It already does. Our body has a natural, intelligent system that is always looking to balance ourselves. And so when we decide that we are no longer holding what's in our system, now we can have beliefs that say we're ingesting all this stuff, and we have this very dominant belief that this stuff is going to stick within us, that's going to make us sick, that it has power to control us internally in our bodies. Of course that's what's going to happen. That's the intention that we set. That's the belief that we set. And everything is about what we believe. That's what we experience, right? So with all of that I just shared with you, we can choose, even when we ingest something, and not to feel bad about it. Our body is naturally cycling it out. But also listen intuitively. Listen to your body. Your body's going to tell you beforehand if you should eat something, if you don't. And honestly, if you go against it, you're just take away what you can learn from it, right? Nothing is ever right or wrong. And we can decide what we want to do with our choices that we've made, whether we've listened to our intuition or not. We learn from it either way. Right? We can choose to listen to it, or we can choose to go back into to certain things, make choices that we can then learn next time what we want to do and what we don't want to do, right? So there doesn't always have to be such a doom and gloom or a negative aspect. Everything in our life is meaningless. Energy is completely meaningless. We are the ones that give it a definition. We decide if it's a positive or if it's a negative, right? And we can choose to make positive or find positive aspects or positive thoughts or positive beliefs about something that naturally we look at as negative, right? So I just thought I would share that with you a bit. We don't have to look at everything around us is controlling us, because when we have that thought and that belief, that's exactly what we're going to experience. And that really is an illusion. It's not real, but it feels so real because that's the life we've created. So if we can look at certain things and be relaxed about certain things and not be so like going into the store and checking all your labels all the time and all those things, like naturally be intuitive. Our body can handle certain things. Maybe not so much that we're eating like really unhealthy stuff 24/7 all the time, right? I mean, everything in moderation. But we can decide how that's going to affect us based off of the perception and the awareness and the beliefs that we have about it, right? So if we can have a negative belief about things that are in external world, we are affected by it negatively. But if we can take a step back and be like, okay, I'm looking at this very negatively. Is there another way I can look at this that can actually make me feel better? Because when you do choose to think about it positively and it makes you feel better, your body does not have the resistance anymore, and it naturally will take care of itself for whatever it is that you choose to like ingest or like have on your skin and things like that. I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, if you're putting your hands in bleach 24/7, probably wear gloves, right? Certain things like that. But when I'm talking about drinking your water, or what the foods that you're eating, or even using paper towel to dry your stuff off, or you're in the grass and things like that, if you're just focusing on the positive aspects of it and giving the energy to what you're doing and being gratitude and enjoying what you're doing, it's not going to affect you. It's not going to affect you like it will if you're constantly looking at it from a negative perspective, right? So I just kind of want to share that. Take with it what you will. And yeah, it might open some doors for you. It might give you some other focal points, different insights and different perspectives on even other things in your life as well, when you just shift your mindset just a little bit to and just be more open to awareness of other things that are possible, because we're multidimensional. And even with these small things that I'm talking about now, these are just like tiny little tips on the scale, man. Like tiny little things that can impact our lives when we have the power to create worlds. Our energy has the power to move mountains and create worlds. So why can't we start with the small things? So that's what I got for you today. And I hope you have the most amazing day.